Friends, it's Tiffany Bryant-Jackson, your education manager here at Three Bone. Today, we are discussing our upcoming play, Mary Jane, written by Amy Herzog and directed by Robin Tynes Miller. And today we have our medical consultant on this show. For those of you who are not in the know, this show deals with a mother who has a child who has a chronic illness and has a need for constant care and a village to help her out. We are actors in a theater company, so we don't have all of that knowledge. But we do have people who have all of that knowledge. So we brought in a consultant for this show. Connie, I want you to tell them a little bit about yourself, how you entered the healthcare industry, and then we're going to chat a little bit about your different roles and how that fits in to this show. So let's start with how you got into the industry in the first place.
Sure. I have been a nurse for close to 50 years. And when I was in high school and you had to decide what you wanted to do, at the time, the careers for women were be a nurse, be a teacher, or be a nun. Um, Being the nun, I had to vote that out because I've been with my husband since we were 14 years old. So I already had a different path figured out there. And teaching, I was like, yeah, I'm not sure I 100% have the penchant for that. Although many times over my career, I've been a college professor. But nursing really resonated with me, and specifically the nursing care of children and mothers. So it all
Fantastic.
started long, long time ago.
Long time ago with limited choices. Thank goodness we've
Yep.
changed a little bit.
Yes, we
Uh,
have.
and everyone has a few choices now. But in your career in healthcare, you mentioned that you've done a few things, worn a few hats, but this show specifically deals with a mother who is really working to advocate for herself and the care of her child. I'd love for you to tell us how you got involved in that work and the importance of that work inside the medical care.
Absolutely. So, my first job out of getting my bachelor's degree in nursing was working in the neonatal intensive care unit. So, taking care of the sickest of the sick babies. Uh, and again, don't lose sight of the time frame. 50 years ago, we didn't save every baby. We did not have the technology, we didn't have the research, we didn't have the knowledge, but we had the care and compassion of nurses. And the children that we did save, many did very, very well, and others had chronic conditions of childhood from their care in the NICU. Again, because we just didn't have all the advantages we have now. So, as I grew up in the nursing profession and have had many, many jobs in pediatrics and in obstetrics, I did a stint where I was a helicopter flight nurse early on in my career, transporting NICU babies from local hospitals to the different med centers where I worked. And when I was in New York, was a flight nurse for very sick moms
Mm.
who were going to have premature babies or babies with health needs, and transported the moms. And this kind of all came together as I sort of grew up, and your need for adrenaline rush and the thrill and everything kind of takes a back seat. And in that time also became a mother, and your perspective changes a little bit at that point too. So between that, being a mom, working full time in nursing, and going on to school, eventually getting my master's in nursing care of children and families and nursing education. And then I have a doctorate in nursing administration. My focus has been, how do we best take care of families of children? And for many years, I had my own private clinical practice at the Med Center, taking care of children with chronic health conditions, specifically cerebral palsy and spina bifida. So, kids with both intellectual and developmental delays, as well as physical disabilities. And these are my kids. These are my kids. They come with families. Sometimes the families are the most challenging part of the project.
Mm.
We know how to take care of the kids, but I bonded very much with my families, and over my years knew where everybody went to school, the name of their dogs, when their sister's birthday was, and probably one of the most rewarding parts of my career was seeing families from beginning to end with their children.
Now, you mentioned you obviously trained in the specific care of children and families. I want to know from your perspective how important it is. We see it a lot in this play, but from your mouth, important is it for advocacy? Because
Absolutely.
sometimes we are dealing in this show with a child who needs to be advocated for, but in so many circumstances, it's the child and the family that needs to be advocated for. So I'd love to hear from you how important you think that work is.
Yeah, I think my role in this show has really been to share the need for advocacy for the mom.
Hmm.
Like I said, we're darn good at taking care of sick kids. And this little guy is a sick kid, plain and simple.
Right.
He's got lots of medical needs that your average 2.5-year-old doesn't have,
Hmm.
uh, and will. That's not going anywhere. He came into the world that way, and that's, his little lot in life. But his mom did not come into motherhood with the thought of having a child with chronic health care needs.
Right.
And how the mom traverses the very complicated healthcare system that we have in America, which is amazing. I mean, we are very fortunate in that we have healthcare options and we have the best of the best, but we sure as heck don't make it easy. And
Correct.
the advocacy for this mom, and to understand that there is a point in time where she is just so flippin' exhausted
Hmm.
that she can't handle talking to one more person. Or there's a plate where she kind of loses it with the music therapist. And it's not that she wants the music therapist there, she wants that so desperately, but she's reached her limit for the day.
Yeah.
And that to be able to understand that that's what she needs, and she needs to be heard every moment, whether it is a life and death thing that a neurosurgeon is there to hear versus it really kind of freaks me out that y'all wake him up for an x-ray, and could we
Right.
just stop that nonsense?
And I think you have a great point. I think we underestimate, if we have never been in a place of being a caregiver, the emotional weight of a caregiver, the physical weight, the exhaustion, all the things that come with being the person responsible for care and having to navigate, as you said, a system that's just not an easy system to navigate. We have wonderful, loving care teams, but getting around your insurance and what's covered and oh, you need to go here. No, actually, that's not this place, that's over there.
Mm-hmm.
It can be overwhelming on a
Yeah.
best day and plain out just hard to even look at on a hard day. So I thank you for mentioning that because I think
Yeah.
people, if you're listening to us talk and you've never had to sit in the caregiver seat, that's a blessing because
Mm-hmm.
it's not an easy seat to sit in. I want to shift a little bit and just talk about you getting involved in the play. What were your thoughts when we reached out and said, do you want to consult? Because you've been able to talk to the cast, you've read the script, so you're putting on another hat and jumping into a creative role with your knowledge. How has that process been?
It's been a super fun experience. You know, nurses couldn't be more diametrically opposed to theater people. Um, we live by a clock, we live by a calendar, we live by the minute, and y'all are much more feeling and free flowing, and that's just not my world. Uh, so it's been fun. It's been fun to see the creative side of it, and it's been an honor to be able to share my perspective of what it's like to support families and children, because it is a unique perspective. You know, I certainly was a bedside nurse for a lot of years, but my primary clinical work was being a 24/7 resource for these families. Uh,
Hmm.
and for 15 years, I worked 24/7, 365 days a year for my families. And they could call me anytime, anywhere. If it was like oh my God, I just dropped his medicine and it is spilled all over the floor and I don't know what to do. We're at Disney
Right.
World and what the heck, you know, or I just need somebody to talk to that understands, or we're on our way to the emergency room. Can you meet us there? You know, and I was privileged to be able to provide that 24-hour care for all those years. And after 15 years, it's a lot. And said, okay, time to turn this over to, the younger generation and let me train them to the privilege that it is to be this involved with these families. And I think that's been a nice thing that I've been able to share with the staff, that we don't view this as a burden. We don't view your
Right.
child as a burden. We don't view you as a burden. Are there days that are more conducive to it than others? Absolutely. But it doesn't change our underlying sentiment.
Well, thank you. We definitely appreciate it. I know you mentioned our two worlds are different, but I think that's the beauty of theater. I personally am a firm believer that theater changes lives, and the way it does that is it brings stories to the forefront of people who might not walk into your job and get to know you at your medical facility, but they can watch this play and really get an understanding of what someone is going through. And it makes them think about it from a different perspective that they haven't had to think about it before. And that's the beauty. We come together often to make it happen, and us leaning on obviously a subject matter expert helps us and getting the message right, because I know some people think of theater as play, and sometimes it is, but it really is its
Mhm.
own form of advocacy in the world. So thank you for spending time with us today, Connie. I appreciate the conversation. For anyone else who is like, I need to know more, Connie will be in the program. She will have a bio, so you will get to know more there. But also, here's your chance to come see a show and learn a little bit more about the life of Mary Jane and her role as a caretaker to her son. We open on February 7th. We run for 3 weekends. So you have a good chance to come catch this show and just see what our wonderful team of creatives are doing with this storyline. That's it for YouTube today. I will catch you guys on the next video as we learn a little more about this show and our community partner. I will see you all later.